Here we are again, guys, and this time we dive into a game that is a little bit familiar. Why, you ask? Well, it is actually the DLC of my first review that I ever made, which I really think you should watch. The game we are talking about is the Callisto Protocol, the Final Transmission. Final Transmission is a DLC of the base game, the Callisto Protocol, and it was released on the 27th of June 2023 for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and then 48 hours later it was released for Windows, Xbox One, and Xbox Series XS. The game was developed by a new studio called Striking Distance Studios and published by Krafton. Usually we do an introduction of the beginning of the game, but this time around we will do the whole story of the DLC Final Transmission. This means that this video will have a lot of spoilers, so if you don't want the DLC spoiled, skip this video and maybe watch my spoiler-free review of the base game. Also want to state that the game was not given to me, I bought it with my own money. At the beginning of the game we get a recap of what happened in the base game up until Jacob's sacrifice. When everything is over and Jacob takes his final rest, he receives a transmission from Caitlin Mahler. She tells Jacob that she has found a way out, but she needs his help to do so. They talk on, and just as the transmission crackled, Guard Captain Ferris' face appears and screams at Jacob, and the screen goes black. We wake up in an unknown place, and it seems like Jacob has forgotten how he got there. Mahler instructs Jacob to get to her lab, where she will fill him in on the details. After fighting our way through hordes of mutants, we finally reach our destination, where Mahler explains why she contacted him and tells him about her own experiment that she focused on up until one of them got loose and killed her colleague. Our next heading is the loading bay, and this is where things start to change. This game really does look amazing, and it really feels like the developers loved making this game, but there are certain points where the textures just didn't look great. But I mostly noticed this while crawling through vents and at some points in other locations, but you still have that atmosphere where you think an enemy will definitely appear but nothing happens, which makes you feel on edge all the time, especially if you play on the harder difficulty. The audio also adds to the atmosphere in this game, but I did notice some audio lag or where the music just cut off, which really hit the immersion of the game. It happened so much in one section that I couldn't focus on the game and just listen if the audio was back or if it was still crackling. Luckily this happened only once for me, but it was still a little bit of a letdown. The UI is the same from the original, but this time we can finally listen to audio logs while moving. In the base game you had to stay in the interface to listen to an audio log, but to be fair, the audio logs didn't last very long, so it really didn't bother me that much. Almost right at the start of the game you realize that everything is not okay with Jacob. He starts having even more bizarre hallucinations, just like he did when Mahler attached his core device in the base game, but this time it is really bad. There is some cool but crazy stuff happening to Jacob, like vents transforming and, my god, all these death traps. Locating a chest that really isn't there, even seeing Jacob in third person. Riding on the walls and getting stuck in different loops. You can definitely feel that something is not right with Jacob, or the whole prison for that matter. A lot in the prison has changed, and it really made my mind going deep in thought on what actually have happened to Jacob. You know, when your brain ciphers through all the horror movies you ever watched or all the horror games I've ever played to find a logical answer to all the shit that is happening. I didn't figure it out until later, but it was still a great feeling trying to find a logical explanation to what is happening instead of traveling from point A to point B where you don't really have anything happening behind the scenes. We are also introduced to a new enemy in the game that looks like the bots from the original game, but now they have been transformed by Mahler into something called a biobot. Instead of being just a huge hunk of metal, we now have a huge hunk of metal and flesh. I mean, the regular bots looked scary, and now they look even more scary. In the beginning, you'll get prompted to use a save from your original playthrough so that you will keep all the progress that you made from that point. but I have heard that some people had problems with loading their original save. But even if you start from a new save, you still get a reasonable arsenal and upgrades. So to be fair, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Let's talk about the combat in the game. Like in the original, you can use both firearms and baton for close quarters, and mostly you dodge attacks. Hit them with your baton a few times, shoot when you get prompted to, and then smack some more. I actually enjoyed the combat in the main game and DLC, and if I had to complain about anything, it's that it's really difficult to run away from a fight to get your bearings, since enemies will pop up everywhere. But to be honest, isn't this how it's supposed to be in a fight against multiple enemies? I've seen people complain about enemies attacking them from left, right, and from behind, and it sounds like this.
While I was fighting multiple enemies, one of them attacked me from behind and I was not ready for that. It is too difficult to fight multiple enemies.
I mean, really? Of course it's difficult to fight multiple enemies. It's supposed to be that way. And if the game only spawned enemies in front of you, people would have said this.
Man, this game is so easy. The NPC are just so stupid. They only attack in front and never from the sides like it should be.
There is just no end to the complaint. I struggle with this too, but is the combat bad because of that? What I did was to make sure that I kept my distance as well as I could and tried to have them all gathered in front of me. Did I get smacked for doing that? Multiple times, but if everything always went like you planned, it wouldn't be much of a horror action game now, would it? To be honest, this ending is not bad. It's not good. It's a great ending. Does it suck that Jacob dies? Yeah, but it's supposed to feel that way. It's just a feeling that most people don't like, and that is understandable, but in my opinion, I don't think that this game deserved the hate it got for the ending. The story made me question what I believed. Is this real? Can I trust Mahler? Is it a dream? Am I dead or am I about to die? This made the story interesting for me, and I am very happy that I bought the game. I could say that the ending was paid DLC, and that's shit. The paid DLC didn't faze me that much, since I felt that I was satisfied with what I got. When it comes to paying for skins and difficulty, I'm not such a big fan, and will never support that. When I was younger and watched other reviewers, they always talked about how pre-ordering games is a bad thing. Companies get paid long before the game is even released, and therefore we have cut DLCs or difficulties being stuck behind pre-orders. We as consumers also have a responsibility, and if people just stop pre-ordering stuff, this will happen less and less, since it's not worth it, but if it sells, they will keep on doing it. I'm not claiming to know exactly how development of a game works or if developers actually cut out parts of the game for later DLC. But what I can say is that it's very different from when I was young. Pre-orders have existed since the 1980s, but back then we didn't have digital copies. So to ensure that you got a copy of the game before it ran out of stock, you had to pre-order. Makes sense. But now since everything is digital copies, we never run out of stock, so why are we still pre-ordering games? But the games were finished products when I was young. Now we have loot boxes, in-game content that we have to pay for, like the color blue, pay to win. We even pay for games that have yet to start development, also called Kickstarters. How can we stop this? Well, we could stop pre-ordering and paying for content that should be in the game from the start for free. Sounds logical to me, but maybe I'm pissing against the wind. Thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, I enjoyed the time I had with the DLC. Maybe it could have been a little longer than it was. Is it a perfect game? No, it isn't. It does have flaws, but is it a shit game? No, it isn't. The game had some texture problems in certain areas of the game, audio crackling or cutting, and it was a little short, but it also had great visuals except for some textures, great combat and satisfying ending. Is this a bad game? In my opinion, no. If you think this is a bad game, you should play Rambo the video game or Ride to Hell. Those should not exist for any reason. As I said before, it's not an amazing game-changing game, but it's interesting enough for me to enjoy it. Mostly because I miss these kinds of games when developers don't have to add open world to everything or try to make sure that everyone is happy. Sometimes you just have to make the game the way you intended it to be, and that is what they did, and I look forward to see what they plan on doing next. The final verdict for the Callisto Protocol final transmission is an 8 out of 10. It's above average in my opinion. I've played through this multiple times and also played through the main game multiple times, and I'm loving it more and more. I think this game deserves more than it got, since through time there have been some AAA games that has been released that didn't get nearly as much shit as they deserved. Well guys, that was it for this review, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. If you did, why not check out my review of the Callisto Protocol or any of my other reviews? If you have the time to spare, I would really appreciate it. And remember, life is too short to play bad games. Let me help you find the best. See you guys.